What if your biggest failure wasn't the end? What if that moment you hit rock bottom, the one that still makes you cringe, was actually the secret start of your greatest comeback? It's a wild idea, but some of the most successful people in history weren't just slowed down by their failures. They were made by them. In the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden opportunities that live inside our darkest moments. We'll get into the incredible true story of J.K. Rowling, who went from being, in her own words, the biggest failure she knew, to one of the most beloved authors on the planet. And most importantly, I'll give you practical, no-fluff steps you can use to turn your own losses into life-changing wins. Let's be real for a second. Failure feels awful. It's that sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize you've messed up, let people down, or just fallen short of who you wanted to be. It's the voice in your head that whispers, "I'm not good enough." This fear can be paralyzing. It stops us from taking risks, trying new things, speaking up, and chasing the life we actually want. We're taught to see failure as the opposite of success, a dead end. We live in a world that puts wins on a pedestal and worships highlight reels. So when we fail, it feels like a final judgment, shame, embarrassment, doubt. We've all been there. But what if those feelings aren't a stop sign? What if that gut-wrenching pain is a signal? A sign that you're being pushed, that you're about to learn something important? What if failure isn't the enemy, but a brutally honest teacher trying to point you toward a new and better path? This isn't just wishful thinking, it's how greatness is forged. There's no better modern example of this than J.K. Rowling. Before the world knew her name, she was, by any normal standard, failing spectacularly. In her late 20s, her life was the opposite of what she'd planned. Her marriage had fallen apart. She was jobless and she was a single mum trying to raise a child in poverty. She later described this time with raw honesty in a speech at Harvard, calling herself the biggest failure I knew. Think about that. Here she was, nearly broke, feeling like she had let down everyone, especially herself. The manuscript for her story about a boy wizard was rejected again and again. 12 publishers said no. It's easy now to look back and say, well, of course it worked out. But in that moment there was no guarantee. There was only the sting of rejection and the crushing weight of trying to provide for her daughter. This was her rock bottom, a place of total loss and uncertainty. This is the part of the story we usually speed past to get to the happy ending, but we need to sit here for a second, because in this place, this moment of total collapse, the secret is revealed. What happens when your biggest fears come true? What do you do when you feel like you've lost it all? So, how do you go from rock bottom to rebuilding everything? It starts with a huge shift in perspective. J.K. Rowling said, "Failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. When you hit the bottom, all the external pressures, all the things you thought you should be, just burn away. You stop pretending, you're left with only yourself and what really matters." For Rowling, that was her daughter, an old typewriter and a big idea. As she put it, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. The failure wasn't a judgment on her worth, it was a liberation. It freed her from the fear of failing again because the worst had already happened and she was still standing. That survival gave her a kind of inner security that success never could. This isn't just her story. Steve Jobs said that getting fired from Apple, the company he built, was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. He said the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. That freedom led to Pixar and Next, and eventually his triumphant return to Apple, where he would go on to change the world. The secret here is that failure isn't what defines you, it's feedback. It's a chance to adopt what psychologist Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset, where challenges aren't threats, but chances to learn and get smarter. It's a chance to stop, reassess, and find solid ground to build something even stronger. This idea of finding strength in our biggest setbacks is so important. Before we get into the practical steps, I want to open up a space for us to do that together. In the comments below, share a time you failed and what it taught you. Your story of hitting a wall and finding a way through could be the one thing someone else needs to read today to keep going. Let's help each other out. A mindset shift is the first most important step, but you need to follow it with action. Here are 4 real-world steps you can take to start turning your own losses into wins. First, own it. This is the toughest step, but you can't skip it. Take full responsibility for your part in what happened. No blaming, no excuses. When you own it, you take your power back. It stops being something that happened to you and becomes something you can learn from. This honesty is where growth begins. Second, dig for the lesson. Once the sting starts to fade, you have to become a detective in your own life. Ask the hard questions. What went wrong? Why? What patterns in my thinking or actions led me here? What is this trying to teach me? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about getting your money's worth. Failure is an expensive teacher, so make sure you walk away with the lesson. Third, build your resilience. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's a muscle, and you only build it by facing hard things. The most legendary story of this is Michael Jordan. He was famously cut from his high school varsity basketball team. He went home, cried, and felt so demoralized he wanted to quit sports. But he used that pain as fuel. He spent the summer practicing like crazy, turning that failure into the drive that made him the greatest of all time. He once said, "I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Resilience is about getting back up, just like Mary Kay Ash did when she took her life savings and built a billion-dollar company after facing endless doubt. It's simply the refusal to quit. Finally, set a new course. Once you've owned it, learned from it, and found your resolve, it's time to look forward. Use what you've learned to set new, smarter goals. What do you want now with this new wisdom? Figure out your destination and then work backward, planning the steps to get there. This isn't about forgetting what happened. As Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. You have to trust that the dot of your failure will somehow connect to your future. Use it to make your next move wiser and more strategic than before. So, what's the secret to life? Maybe it isn't about dodging failure. Maybe it's realizing that, in the words of J.K. Rowling, it is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. The stories of J.K. Rowling, Steve Jobs, and Michael Jordan aren't fairy tales, they're roadmaps. They show us that our lowest moments hold the seeds of our greatest growth. Failure gets rid of the fluff, it gives us priceless feedback, and it teaches us about our own strength in a way that success never can. The knowledge you gain from surviving a setback is a gift, even if it hurts to open. So the next time you fail, and you will, remember this. Don't run from it, turn toward it, own it, learn from it, and let it be the solid foundation you build your new life on, stronger than ever. Because as Rowling said, we carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And thanks for watching.